I want you to get together.
Shifting gears, again, getting back to the point before the break, we were talking about this general shifting of the Overton window, shall we say, in culture today. And I've not really had a chance to talk with anybody about this yet, so the first person I'm kind of going to riff about this with and see what your ideas are. I noticed this change over the years where what we talk about is suddenly the norm now. It's kind of like everyday conversation. And I made a video kind of discussing, especially after the aftermath of the whole Kirk incident, that there was this sudden rise and interest in Christianity. And there has subtly been this rising interest in I suppose orthodoxy is a good way to describe it. People craving something that's not the norm in society anymore. The norm is telling you isolate yourself, be alone, eat the bugs, have nothing, be happy. Basically, don't bother trying to own property, forget about tradition, start new traditions, create this multicultural blend of there's no such thing as borders, there are no countries, and everyone's sick of it to the point where it's no, I'm going to go back to ultra traditionalism. I'm going to as a protest, everyone's kind of looking for God, looking for answers, looking for some kind of connection, and as a result they've kind of fallen into the Catholic or the Orthodox Church. I was always noticing that at least over the past 6-7 years that has kind of been happening slowly. And there's been a rise of numbers, and I've seen articles saying there's suddenly a rise of numbers of young men and young people coming to church. And then with the Charlie Kirk thing, it was a massive influx in the churches all of a sudden. Everyone was suddenly inspired to be a Christian because obviously this was a man who presented to the public. He was out there spreading the gospel and also fighting the political fight, the conservative fight, debating people and having his basic conservative arguments mingled in with Christian ideas, in this debate setting. And we've already seen a backlash, I would say, to liberal thought on campuses. I suppose Jordan Peterson was a soft version of that as well, in a way. And then suddenly I find people's exhaustion with the left and the complete takeover of that paradigm of society, people pushing back, like I said, going back to church, going back to traditionalism. When the Charlie Kirk thing kicked off, I felt like we saw the rise of a brand new form of Christianity, which isn't churchianity necessarily, but it has an element of church community to it. It's more of a militarized Christianity. That's kind of what I noticed. It's a Deus Vult, let's have another crusade type of Christianity, I'm not here to say whether the Crusades were even a bad thing necessarily. I think they were a perfectly reasonable reaction to Muslim aggression, when you actually look into the history of the whole situation. And it took a long time for them to even react to the horrors that were being committed against Christian nations and the complete takeover of the empire by Islam. So kind of, if you look into that history, it seemed like a justified action, but there was obviously corruptions along the way. It was a loosely knit organization of Christian people. There wasn't really, the leadership was all over the place, so it was a bit of a mess in many ways, but it was also a bit of an example of when Christianity is pushed too far, when they finally do react, it's big, and it's kind of like a righteousness, and I feel like, this is my working theory, they're kind of trying to militarize young men under the banner of Christianity. And I feel like this goes hand in hand with that letter that was written by Albert Pike about the 3 world wars. And I noticed some interesting phrasing in that 3 world war letter. And it was basically saying, we'll unleash the nihilists and the atheists and the communists, basically, and we'll suppress Christianity, is what he says in this letter, until the point where it cannot be restrained anymore. And then we'll unleash Christianity, basically, as a counter to the suppression we put them under through the nihilists and the atheists and the socialists. And then the horrors, basically, that they'll commit will be used as justification for getting rid of religion, because everyone will see finally that complete and total religious authority ends in bloodshed and murder and horror. But also extreme atheism through the communist ideologies will show that complete atheism also leads to destruction, death, and misery. And people disillusioned, no longer knowing where to put their deistic spirits, their desire to follow a god, will finally be revealed under the doctrine of Lucifer, and they'll be given this new religion. And I can't help but feel we're seeing the rise of that unleashed, militarized Christianity which is going to perhaps in the future be used to commit atrocities against certain people under the justification as it's a reaction to the horrors they put us under. And it's finally God, giving us that righteous divine authority to take back control. But it feels like a corralling. It feels like a false Christianity to me. It says all the right things. It presents in all the right ways. But I can't help but feel like there's a huge play being made here. That many people, because these are new baby Christians you'll find who have this attitude, who haven't really thought about it for very long to understand what they're actually getting involved with. They're my initial thoughts. I'll leave it open-ended there. I'll give it back to you. But what do you think about this? Do you think I'm onto something here? Or?
I think you're right on the money. And this is the reason why I actually think the notion of the little season is very important, is because so many people I know that are Christian are Zionists and they're dispensationalists. And when I listen to their rhetoric, when I listen to them talk, one, I know at a very deep level that they're regurgitating whatever their pastor is telling them. Like, there's not a lot of indwelt reflection. This is the company line and I'm towing it. And I'm very, very attuned to that because I'm a recovering ashram guy. Like, I know what it's like to fall for programming and then just toe the line and not have a free thought for myself, not actually look around. And it has been weaponized. Like, at least here in the United States, the the level of blame and pointing of the finger, which is a very unchristian thing. Like, I like to point that out to some of my Christian friends that are really angry about things and want justice and all this other stuff. Like, doesn't it say in the Bible, that vengeance is the Lord's? Like, that's not for you that's not your thing. That's not you're to be as Jesus. You're to be in this forgiveness vibration. So it's very interesting. I think you're hitting the nail on the head with this. I like to talk about eschatology because if your frame of reference is out of whack, you can fall for the Zionist propaganda. That's just the best way I could say it.
Well, it feels like right now there is this shift happening where everyone's noticing what Israel is actually doing and who they actually are, or are not, should we say, and what's really going on there now. And I think there's a whole new generation of young people who are not Zionists, completely anti-Zion, if you want to say anything. They do not care about Israel. And I think that obviously we've seen with the death of soft conservative figureheads like Charlie Kirk, whether you can say what you want about world stage acting, whatever, that type of stuff, but they're playing out as the people are seeing it. He was removed, and what's replaced him is a more hard right Christian conservatism, like Nick Fuentes, for example, has risen up in popularity and fame recently, and it seems completely organic because it's a natural reaction. I'm saying it seems on the surface. I'm talking about the story here where we're all looking unfold. It seems organic because naturally the youth have had their future stolen from them. They are angry, and they're justifiably so angry because they have no future. And it seems like foreign policy in most of the Anglosphere is it's not the people of the country first; it's refugees first. And it really is. That it's, especially in England, that's exactly how it is. And we are angry, and we're getting to the point now where it's like we can't afford to live here. The people of this country can't even live in the country, yet preference is given to people who shouldn't even be here. Literally, and they're only here to steal, kill, and destroy, and benefit from a system that they didn't build or have no history in building. And that's kind of been followed and copy pasted all over the European speaking and historically heritaged world, including America and Canada and the rest of it, in Australia, wherever it is, And I feel like that's been done on purpose. We all heard of the Kalergi plan and the rest of it as well. It's all just orchestrated to get to this point where they can make us snap. It's like everything they've done has been done on purpose, and obviously too. They're not even hiding that they're doing it. It's like, what are you going to do about it? So what they're whispering in our ears, it's like, oh, we just let in 1 million more this year. Does that just make your blood boil? Yeah, it's like they want us to get furious, you know, and it's kind of like they want the white Christian male to snap back. They want that's the point of everything. They're going to get more egregious and more heinous with this journey they're putting us on, you know, because it takes a long time to make a Christian get violent,
Yes,
or at least
that's
even if you're not a Christian. These people like myself and have grown up in countries that are imbued with basic Christian morality. It's our nature, it's our culture, in fact. So you don't have to be a Christ-following Christian. You can be a cultural Christian because that's just what you grew up in, and you would have this basic morality. You know, the non-aggression principle. I'm not going to get violent. I'm going to rise above it as best I can. We're going to find words to solve these things civilly. You know, we're going to be civil. We're going to trust one another. We're going to not steal from each other. We're not going to. We have these basic Ten Commandments belief system ingrained into our laws. You know, that the right way to be, our morality. And I feel like they're trying to push and push and push until we do snap back. They've let the barbarians through the gate. And they're plastering and showcasing what they're doing to us on the news and laughing about it while they're at it. You know what I mean? All of it just feels like a play. All of it's a play just to get us to react. That's the danger here. I feel like the reaction's happening now. It's happening. The reaction is happening. And what we're going to get is a militarized Christianity out of it. And they're going to be given all power and authority. The very state that subjugated them is going to hand over the keys of power and authority to this new militarized right-wing, ultra-right-wing Christianity, and then let them get the revenge. Do you get what I mean? That was always the point. From the surface, what's it going to look like? Victory. Finally, we're getting our countries back. Finally, we're winning, and we're doing. But in the process, how many people are we going to kill? Do you know what I mean? Like, even if we're not talking about it. And this is the problem. People don't understand. That's what humans are like. That's what people do. You might be the one killing people. But when you look at a spear, most of the violence is committed by the very end of the spear. But we're all a part of that body, the handle too. You know, it's kind of, the killing's done at the end. All you need is a few people at the end to do the killing in any group. And that's probably what we're going to end up with. And then again, we've set the stage then for the next part of the plan. Frame it's another Nazi situation. Frame them as the devil, the enemy. Look what extreme Christianity leads to. Do you know what I mean? It leads to genocide. It leads to another 6 million, right? You know, it's going to be something like that, okay? And that's where that justifies the abolishment or the banning of Christianity. But of course, what they've really banned isn't real a relationship with Jesus or anything like that. They've banned religion, church. They've banned this straw man that was never Christianity to begin with, you know. Go ahead, sorry.
Do you see that as like, because I see this all, because I've lived in so many different countries and no country's in a good state. Like I actually see there's like a multinational failure that's occurring.
Oh yeah.
And to me, that's all inciting this UN, this like one world government action. Because in every country I've been in, the UN is a very big deal. Like the UNESCO has a very large presence. Even if people aren't aware of it from a governmental building perspective, their rhetoric is in everything. Like literally everything. So to me, I see all of this as like, okay, it's not so much going to be anti-Christian, it's going to be anti-government. Like they'll use like the play of the far, you know, the far left against the far right, and they'll use those two to like destroy each other. But the goal, from what I'm seeing over here in the States, is just to have everybody just be like, the government is garbage. Like we don't need like this. It has no authority. Like in the United States, we had our quote unquote government was on strike for like, I don't know how many months. And they're like, oh, it's going to affect air travel and all this other stuff. And maybe it did for some people. It didn't affect my life, not one bit. And so then you're going to have people say, oh, well, if the government was on strike and all these government workers weren't working and it didn't make any difference to my daily life, what's the point of it, right? And so I do think that they'll use religious fervor to like, further their ends in whatever means. But I see like the big play is like governments, like all these governments, they're all way over budget. They're all in debt. In debt to who? Tell me.
Hmm.
And they're all failing their people. And it's not like the people that come into these countries have any type of loyalty or anything like that to their new digs at all. So, uh, is it that way over in Europe for you right now? Like in the British Isles, are you seeing like the overall sentiment of people is that the government as a whole as an entity in and of itself is failing?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's coming. It's the old paradigm is destroyed. The left-right
Mhm.
conservative versus Labour thing is dead. It's a zombie being propped up by one another. They need each other to
Mhm.
survive, and everyone's done with them because they've done nothing but destroy our country since Blair in '97 introduced these sets of laws and principles of liberalism from the EU and the UN, which basically have destroyed us through socialism, absolutely destroyed our country. And obviously, while they're at it, unfettered in migration, immigration on an already small, tiny island has, like I said, made it unlivable for the people who are already here. And again, a lot of people are rightfully so angry because the people that they've let in aren't the best. In many cases, they're really not, and it's not all, of course, but the majority of them are not here because they were fleeing war-torn states or anything like that. They're here because they're economic migrants and saw a free meal ticket, and they're here to take as much as they can and send it back to their own countries. And as a result, everything's just progressively getting a hell of a lot worse here. And I completely empathize with people being pissed off and angry and wanting to get violent and do something about it. I can see that, but I can also see some strange things happening recently, along with this collapse of our current paradigm government and the rise of like parties like Reform, let's say, the shift of the Overton window, the rise of a Christian nationalism. It's all there. It's all happening here.
Mhm.
And the next party is going to be something new. We're going to get change, and it's going to seem like progression towards something positive happening. And someone in the chat here, for example, is saying like, wait till the Islamists surround you and your family. Let's see how you react then. And it's kind of like they are in the midst of reacting with those type of comments. Do you get what I mean? And
Mhm.
justifiably
Yeah.
so, because it will get violent like that, and you will be forced to defend yourself and your family in many occasions. That will actually happen. It's a catch-22. I understand you got to defend yourself and your family, but you best believe that defense is going to be framed as aggression. That's how it's going to be
You
framed in the end, and you can't win. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't in this situation. But I do feel like there's going to be that switch. There's going to be a bait and switch. We're going to suddenly feel like there's victory. And one really odd thing happened very recently in the UK. British flags, the St. George's Cross and the Union Jack, has just been plastered everywhere on every single lamppost, or street lamp as you call them, zip tied on, flowing away as far as you can see down every street. Every single lamppost has a flag on it, a British flag, and they framed it in the news like a silent protest by everybody all over the country that they've taken their country back. They've had enough. This is a this is a Christian country, this type of thing, and this is how we're doing it. And I was looking around, I was like, who did this? Who put up all these hundreds, thousands, millions of flags? Who made the flags? Who organized and structured all of this? Like, this just doesn't happen overnight. And it did. It happened overnight. And it's kind of like, this is a government sanctioned, organized, funded operation to make something like this happen. But they framed it in the media like it was just Mick and Dave down the street taking it upon themselves to go out at night with a stepladder and just put them everywhere, and it's not. Like, no way is that the case. Like, the council have done this. People with very tall ladders and the time and the authority to not be questioned while doing it have done this. You know what I mean? And it was an orchestrated, organized event to purposefully, obviously, rile up nationalist pride in your country attitudes in the people, in the populace. It wasn't because they're reacting to the current state of affairs. It was done again to rile us all up. It's a plan. It's a long-term sequence. And I can see the sequence coming one step after the other. But the problem is, I can also see how those people who are living in cities where their children are being raped by grooming gangs are angry, justifiably so, and want to do something about it. I empathize with them completely. So when they hear me saying something like this, they think I'm saying, like, sit back and let evil people do terrible things to your children. And that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there are people to blame for why this is happening, but you best believe they've done it on purpose and they want you to react. Okay?
Yes.
It's a shitty, horrible situation to be in. But you're in one. Mm-hmm. You're in a shitty, horrible situation here. And we need to be extremely delicate and careful with how you do react. Because they want us not, they don't want us living through life. They want us reacting through life. And that's the problem.
I want you to get together